10 seconds. Okay, so we're live and we're going to start in like a minute. We'll just wait for a few attendees to join in. All right, so I think we should start. Hello, everyone. Good morning or welcome to DigiBank, the Banking Transformation Summit organized by Khaleej Times. My name is Barsha. I'm from Khaleej Times. Well, moving on to the first session for the day, the topic would be key strategies for effective banking digitization. And our speaker for today is Mr. Subroto Som. Giving a short introduction for Mr. Subroto Som, he's a senior executive vice president, head of retail banking group at Mashreq Bank, the UAE's leading financial institution. Since joining Mashreq in 2016, Subroto has played a vital role in transforming Mashreq's retail banking arm into an innovative, digital-first and customer-centric bank. Subroto has over 30 years of experience across all aspects of consumer banking, wealth management, commercial banking, and business management in more than 30 countries across Asia, Middle East, and Africa. Prior to joining Mashreq, he held a senior position within risk management and consumer banking at Citibank and Standard Chartered. He has also served a board of director in Indonesia, Permata Bank, and Standard Chartered Singapore. So, welcome, Mr. Song. It's an absolute honor to have you on board. Well, before we start, I would request all the attendees, if you all have questions, we can, Mr. Song will answer them at the end of the session, at the end of the session, yeah. So, Mr. Song, you can please start your session. Thank you.
Thank you, Varsha, and good morning to you all, and welcome to this excellent DigiBank 2020 Banking Transformation Forum. A warm welcome to all the participants, delegates, the panelists, and the speakers, and I'm sure you will find the day very useful and collaborative. Mashreq has been a leader in technology and innovation over past many years, and in the last 3 or 4 years, it has won many accolades from customers as well as awards from institutions like Global Finance, World Finance, Euromoney, Banker, and Gartner. I'm here to share a couple of insights in our digital transformation and a couple of things that we are doing to digitize Mashreq Bank. Digital is everywhere. And I think today you pick up any industry, any vertical, and everybody is talking about digital. The pandemic has only accelerated the digitization story that we all are in the midst of. Whenever you talk of digital and banking, fintechs come into your picture. And there is often a connotation that fintechs and banks are a threat to each other and that there is a clash. I have a very different view. I like to classify fintechs into 3 broad categories. There are standalone digital banks. There are digital verticals like the payment verticals, the wealth management verticals, the trade verticals, the credit evaluation verticals. And then there are various digital capabilities that you see springing up in the space of identity management, authentication, data management, data storage, and things like that. I think in the first category of digital-only banks, while there are many and they are growing, but they're struggling to be profitable and scaling up. The story there is still work in progress, but they still haven't made a big dent in the banking revenues. But the other 2 categories in digital verticals and digital capabilities, there is an excellent opportunity for banks and the digital fintechs to work together because the synergy will bring enormous value to consumers and the banks. And it is that story that I want to talk a little bit more. But before I go to the details of how fintechs are integrating with banks or working with banks, I also want to mention that banks are not sitting still. Every bank is spending millions of dollars and dirhams in digitizing their banking operation. We at Mashreq also have launched two digital-only banks called as Neo for individuals and NeoBiz for small business. And they are about 2 to 3 years old and are gaining great market share from customers in UAE. But before we go into the tech transformation, one of the things we realized and we worked on is in transforming the organization into an agile organization. And I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about what does agile organization mean. At the simplest form, in the agile organization, you have squads of 8 to 10 people, and they are empowered to work on either a journey or a process or a problem. And the squads have multiple, or they have people from different aspects of business. It could be developers, designers, product people. And there are also chapter leads who organize to ensure that each squad is working towards in a principle that works for the bank. And the squads work on a 2-week sprint, and they deliver capabilities and changes and transformation in bits and pieces every 2 weeks. This agile way of working into squads, into chapters, and into tribes allows an organization to be nimble, to focus, and to bring about transformation in a rapid and in a coordinated way. Mashreq has gone agile in 2018, and we believe that is the first step that helps you to do transformation. As I said, banks are spending millions in digitizing. But how are they spending the money? Many traditional banks, or many banks in the early part, they started the digital journey by digitizing what we call as the channels or the customer's experience with the bank. Be it the website, be it the mobile banking, be it the online banking, be it the branch banking. But the core technology remained the same. While that did bring about a lot of change and a lot of benefit, it was becoming increasingly difficult to integrate with all the new things that were coming into to the fintechs or in the ecosystem. So we decided one of the first things we will do about 18 months back is to move to a new tech stack. And that is an important element of transformation, because we realized by just working with existing technology and existing core, it was getting difficult to integrate and to manage the extent of change and the nature of the change. So what is the new tech stack? And the new tech stack basically works on a couple of principles. It is cloud native and microservices oriented. It also makes the core hollow, or you actually go through a process of hollowing the core, and the core does basic record keeping and financial accounting and calculating kind of capabilities. Rest of all the things are done through microservices. You actually build various APIs, and you have an API gateway through which you can integrate external APIs or external SDKs, or you communicate with other fintech players. And this whole process is done in what is called a DevOps or a CI/CD pipeline way. What this simply means is you have a process of continuous integration and continuous deployment. Traditionally in technology, we are used to having a user give a specs, technology finding out the scope, the cost, couple of rounds of negotiation, then a scheduling, then a development, then various testing and deployment. This cycle could take anywhere from 3 months to 12 months, depending upon the complexity of the change that you're bringing. With a DevOps and CI/CD pipeline, things could be done typically in a 2-week time frame. There are times you could do things within a day, but there are rarely things that should take more than a month. This agility and this way of working is what the new tech stack allows us to do. Some banks are making an effort today to move to this new stack, because without there, the ability to integrate and operate in this rapidly changing fintech and ecosystem becomes a challenge. This is at the core and the heart of our digital transformation that we have embarked at Mashreq. It's not easy, but it's not difficult either. If you plan it, you can actually make it work to be self-funding within a 3 to 4 year time frame. And banks which have very old systems can actually leapfrog by going to a cloud native and this new DevOps model. Let me shift from this technology architecture and the technology approach to what are the challenges that the banks face and we have faced. First is the decision of whether you want to build or you want to own. And I think in the past, many banks have bought software and have ran the software. In a way, you have outsourced your technology architecture or development. There is a mandate, or there is a feeling that people are now feel that technology being so core and so important that you cannot afford to outsource, you need to insource it. And hence, the technology people inside the bank will have to own the architecture, build most of the components, and buy and integrate what they can effectively get from outside. They obviously will work on platforms that are provided by various tech people. The second challenge bank faces is in moving to this cloud native. And I know there are regulatory challenges across most countries, but as the regulatory environment changes, as cloud computing becomes or gets allowed more and more, it will be beneficial. But even if it is not, you could create a cloud environment on premises. And the technology of cloud computing and cloud operating in a cloud, even if it is on your own premises, does give you a lot of advantage. That's the second challenge. The third, when you start to build many of these capabilities and when you start to integrate and develop, you need to have new kinds of people in the bank working in your technology and in your business units. And also when you start to operate in an agile way, you need to have very new talent who will help to bring the agility in your organization. People like data scientists, data engineers, data translators, coders, developers, designers, architects. This will become very common family of employees in your agile and tech world. We need to attract those talent, give them an environment to work and manage them. That's the third challenge that we will face, or we face. The fourth, the cultural challenge is enormous. Now with an agile squads, with many new kind of people operating within the bank, and the new DevOps model. You need to create a collaborative atmosphere. You need to create an atmosphere of support, and you need to create an atmosphere where fail fast. If something is not working, get to know that quickly, discard it, and move on. This cultural change of managing diverse set of employees with new skills and integrating the business and technology. The word business and technology should not be used independently. They are one team. And last but not the least, this may need and is making some initial waves of a very different and evolving managerial structure around segments, structure around customers, as opposed to around departments and functions. Having spoken about some of the challenges, let me talk a little bit about where are the biggest impact this can have. And let me give an example of three, and there are many. First, on new account onboarding, particularly for retail and small business banking or SME, there is a huge pain point that both customers and bank face. And I think digital onboarding and a digital transformation of banks gives the maximum benefit in this space initially. You can reduce significant cost, you can improve customer experience enormously, and both of them give you space to invest more. The second area where there is a huge impact is in the impact of communication with clients and personalization with the client. With new digital technology and digital banking, face-to-face meeting, visits, calls, or emails are not the only means, or probably not the most predominant means of communicating. Notifications, messaging, embedded messaging inside the apps that people are using become far more impactful and welcomed by customers. Getting the information at the time when the customer can use, and you being able to predict where and how is possible. So that's the second big area of communication with the client, that this new digital banking can have a huge impact. And the third area of impact is what I call it, making banking invisible. So the customers no longer need to make a special effort to create a banking transaction or to execute a banking transaction. It gets embedded in whatever else they are doing. Either they are purchasing something on e-commerce, or they are buying something in a store, or they are using their app. The banking leg of the transaction gets initiated, fulfilled, and completed automatically. That's the third big areas. There are many other areas where digital banking will and is giving advantage, but I wanted to highlight some of the three areas that can easily create a significant impact in your customer experience, in your cost structure, and will give you money to invest to build this in a significant way. Before I stop or end, I will like to say that this is probably the most interesting and exciting time in retail and small business banking, because the possibilities are immense and no one has an advantage, and no one's model as it exists today will be successful in the future. A lot of new things are possible. We have to be open to learn and experiment new things. We have to be open to working in a new ways, and collaborate to compete will probably become the norm of the future. There is nothing that everybody will know or knows or will know that will work. It's going to be a continuous integration, as I call it, and a continuous deployment. With that, I will like to stop here and see if there are any questions. I'd like to wish you all the best for the rest of the conference.
That was an amazing session, sir. We have a question, and the question is, in this age of digitization, how are banks monetizing their data?
I think it's a great question. Banks have always had a lot of data. I think before you think about monetizing the data externally, if you start using the data for your own business, you will see how much benefit you will get. As I mentioned briefly, customization and personalization to a customer of one is possible today because of data. So predicting and understanding customer behavior and need is possible with this big data analysis and the huge amount of data that the customer leaves behind as he transacts with the bank. Using it to further fulfill customers' financial needs and reduce bank's cost will be the first area I will like to say that there are huge benefits. You can talk about further collaborating with other people with customers' consent to use the data more, like many e-commerce companies have done in the past. But at this stage, I think there is so much potential of just using the data that the banks have for their own use, which they haven't done so far or haven't done as well, will be a great plus. I hope that gives you a sense or gives you an answer. Thank you.
Sure, there are a couple of more questions coming in. One question would be, do you see investments in the space of employee experience in banks? How are the employees being trained on these digital transformation objectives by banks?
I think that's an excellent question. And I should have mentioned that in the cultural challenge that the banks face. And I think there is no doubt that digital transformation is having a big impact, not only in the new kinds of skills and the new kind of employees that are necessary or required in the banks, but also of the ways the current employees need to perform. Training, upskilling, and making them aware of where they can play a role is a big first step, and most banks are engaging in that. But at the end of it, ultimately, it's upon the individual to take advantage of those opportunities and upskill themselves. And in our experience, we have seen some great examples of many employees taking advantage of them, all levels, whether at senior level or at management level or at an operating level. And I think this is an important focus that needs to be had. And thanks for bringing it out. I think that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, there's one last question. What is your definition of cloud native?
Okay, what cloud native gives is it actually allows the application to run on cloud and gives it the ability to both vertically and horizontally scale it up, which means that if you have bigger volumes of a particular application, you can add more capacity and pay as per need, and don't have to necessarily have all the computing power before you start the application. Second, you can keep adding more and more functionality to the cloud computing that allows you to scale. Essentially, it gives you a lot of advantage in the application and the cost benefit that the businesses get from that. I will like to
Yeah, sure.
close and thank everybody, and I want to wish them all the best for the day. There are excellent panelists and sessions lined up for you all. As I said, collaboration is the new way, and together exploring what is new and possible is the future. As I said, it's the most exciting time in retail and small business banking. So I wish you all the best and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure having you on board. Thank you so much for taking your time and coming and speaking to our audience. I'm sure the audience are pretty happy attending your session. Thank you. And to all the attendees, we have our next session, which is starting. And the next session would be, the topic for the next session would be cloud banking, the new catalyst for banking transformation. I would request all the attendees to please join in the next session. Thank you.